Hello and welcome to Solar Insiders. My name is Sophie Forrest and I am the editor of Renew Economy and One Step Off the Grid. And joining me today is Renew Economy's lead reporter, Rachel Williamson. How are you, Rachel?
I'm very well. How are you doing, Soph?
I'm very well also. Yes, nearly through another week of chaos and confusion and climate denial.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean that really sort of knocked me off my axis last week, more than I expected. We're talking about the coalition's word salad of energy and climate policy.
I was given what's been happening at COP and
Yeah.
Turkey getting the next COP. I was wondering which climate denial shenanigans you were referring to just now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a bit, but I'm referring to the core. You know, the one that we all thought we were kind of done with. There's I don't know how many times that they've declared the climate wars to be over, but
I did.
well,
Well, I think I read a story by Giles yesterday, and I just thought, I was reading this story. Giles has written this story before, about 4 or 5 years ago, probably multiple times. And I
yeah,
just thought, when do we get to stop writing this story?
yeah,
When do we get to write something smart or interesting or new?
yeah,
Or I guess we got to do that for the last six
progressive.
months.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and look, it's obviously it's been better, and they're not in government, so but it's just still this disappointment that we can't all be on the same page for some reason.
I don't even need
And
them to be on the same page. I just need someone to be thinking about the exciting things that could happen in the future if,
hmm,
for once, Australia decided to do something that wasn't mining. Um, or mining.
or shipping out the products of mining.
Yeah.
Um, did you see on that note, in the I think the part of the misinformation, I saw a little clip from it, which was Malcolm. What? Oh, now I'm going to forget his name. Malcolm Roberts, is it?
Uh, One Nation MP. Senator.
Mm, mm, yes. And I think my brain's doing me a little favor there trying to, but talking to a couple of scientists about whether or not uh, it was consensus that climate change was a thing, and the frustration and professionalism, that sort of tug of war for these people. At one point, the one of them drop the pen in showing it in the same way that we know that when we drop something, it's going to. Oh, it was fantastic. I do recommend having a look. I mean, it's
So
depressing.
the scientist was reverting to explaining that gravity is also real in his quest
Well,
to
we talked about
convince.
physics and how you can't really argue with that, and then it was consensus and talking about consensus, and he said so, and Peter Wish Wilson was helping out by saying, oh, so just for example, if 99.9% of the world's scientists agree that man-made carbon emissions are causing global climate change, that's consensus. You consider that to be consensus, and they're like, yeah. See, it's like, so the 0.1%, doesn't change the fact that it's consensus. And she's like, no, that's correct. And one of them said, I'd compare it to our thoughts on the Big Bang Theory, and the one next to her says, I'd also compare it to theories about the Earth being flat. So yeah, all
Oh,
scientists, and yeah. But anyway, we digress, and we have lots of things to talk about that are much more solar and consumer energy focused. But first of all, we'll cross to an interview that I have done with Neeraj Das, who is the CEO of ElecSome. He actually has a couple of companies, but ElecSome is his company that's focused on recycling, or upcycling, as they like to call it, solar panels. Um, it's a very ongoing hot topic in this industry, because it's really, we're taking sort of baby steps towards it, excruciatingly small baby steps that is causing some companies huge discomfort as they try and build. But we should be taking giant steps because we are well behind the pace. We've got lots and lots of panels that are stacking, literally piling up, and that need to be recycled with amazing, resources in them that can be reused. So yes, we'll hear from Neeraj, and we'll be back for more after that. Here's Neeraj Das from ElecSome. Neeraj Das, welcome to Solar Insiders.
Thank you very much, Sophie, for inviting me to this podcast.
It is my pleasure. Now, you're here to discuss with us the ever hot topic of solar recycling, or as you like to prefer to call it, upcycling. Your company, ElecSome, that is your business there, and you are one of really only a handful of companies that are on our radar, at least, that are sort of forging ahead with this. And there's been, a lot of discussion about how difficult it is and also what kind of policies we need to drive solar recycling and how big demand is getting in the meantime. But I thought we would start with talking about ElecSome and what it is that you guys do and what is the difference between recycling and upcycling.
Thanks a lot for the question, Sophie. It's indeed a very hot topic at this stage. Starting with ElecSome, we would like to say we are one of the largest operational plant in the country, with a Gibson plant in spread in 80,000 square meter, where we have developed 25,000 square meter already. The reason why I'm saying we need a large scale plant, and our idea to go to Gippsland was because of renewable energy zone. We wanted to be closer to solar farm, and solar panel is a big mass. So when you compare with other e-waste, it is a different kind of waste to manage, which needs a lot of space. So our initial idea was that we can't manage in a smaller space, and moving factories would be a very costly venture. So ElecSome at this stage, we in our Gippsland plant, we manage aluminum, glass, and copper. These are the three items we are recovering and from the solar panel and sending back to the metal industry, and the glass goes to Northeast Link via Boron. As you know, our glass is approved for 5%, 50% of the direct replacement of natural sand, and now we are doing a trial with 100%. Now that lead to the answer for recycling versus upcycling. Recycling, as we all know, the breaking something down into a lower value product or similar value product. Upcycling work mainly with the value,
right?
Which in 2020, when we started working with RMIT and University of Melbourne, whom we give the credit to, brought us into the solar panel recycling and upcycling. The project was that the value of the recovered material has to be higher than the market price. So that's where the glass were upcycled. So to give you a bit of a ballpark figure, that natural sand is a $40 a ton. If we are able to send the recovered glass as a replacement of natural sand in $100, and where the other glass price is a $20 per ton, that we call it upcycling, because now the same glass, instead of $20, it's being sold at $100. So that's upcycling versus upcycling. Yeah.
So creating value and which is, an essential part of making this a viable business, and to creating a solar supply chain that includes stewardship.
100%, 100%. Because without increasing the value, it's a capital investment is huge. That's what everyone in the country is feeling the pain.
Yeah.
Now, without increasing the value of the recovered material, it would be very hard to keep it onshore. And we want to keep it onshore. When the waste export is banned, the aim is to keep it onshore.
Yeah, Absolutely. Now, with your plan, as you're saying in Gippsland, can you talk us through how the process goes? Like, say, a panel comes off a rooftop or off an old solar farm. What happens from there? Where does what does it do?
Yeah, great question. When the solar panel come from a rooftop or solar farm, initial a lot of solar panels to us came from a solar farm, starting with the construction damage. As we know that there is a construction damage when the big solar farms are being built. The transportation is optional. Customer take trans. Sometimes they do it by themselves. Sometimes they ask us to organize the truck. When it comes to the our factory in Gippsland,
Yep.
the first step is the deframing, where we deframe it. But since a start, we wanted to be on a speed side.
Yep.
That we wanted is that its speed is the one key thing, where we wanted to be, instead of so that's where we work on a 3 seconds per panel processing time. 3 second per panel processing time. We
That's
set up a
quick.
system. We set up a system in a way that if, for example, the North Queensland is a lot of hailstorm and lot of flood type of things with the unexpected weather. If suddenly the 500,000 panel come to our plant at a door where you have to take care of the whole solar town went into flood,
Yeah.
and then the system we have is that we don't go with a deframing. We can just start the shredding and then separating via the eddy current separator, and the glass goes to pulverizing. That's what the technology we initially adapted.
Right.
Now we are working also in a parallel uh, and since the start, I'll say that we have been parallelly working on that, uh, deframing and getting it the recovered percentage higher. So for that we use a lower temperature technique. So there is a two techniques I'm talking. I hope I'm
Yeah. No. It makes total sense because I recall when speaking to Darren Johansson from the Smart Energy Council, who's been very involved in all of this, the state that the panel arrives in is very important. If you want to recover all of the precious metals and so on, it has to be pretty much undamaged. So what you're saying is you've got sort of a process for panels that come to you in pristine condition, and a process for panels that are coming damaged.
Exactly. So we have a two setup, where one setup we can process a lot of panel very quickly.
Yep.
That will give, if we have to manage a lot of panel. But second process is where we can get the copper, aluminum, glass, anyway in both the process, very clean glass, which can be usable as a sand. Now the game changer is the silicon and silver. So since last 2 years, we have been spending a lot of R&D and lot of money on the scaling up the silicon and silver process. We would like to say that in the world, we are one of a few company who has recovered the silicon and silver in the lab.
Okay.
I took a world tour, and I don't think so at this stage there is any industrial scale process for a silver recovery and silicon recovery from solar panel exist in the world. So that's where we are scaling up at this stage to recover the silicon and silver, which is the back panels. So it's the value goes as a 10%. If you see from a solar panel, in a the industry is very hot, because if everything we are able to recover, then it's not a waste problem. It's a source problem, opportunity for the resource. And overall, the cost can go, recover cost of the material can go to $40-50. $40-50 is a fantastic value.
Yep.
But to achieve that, the major part is in the 10%.
Yes.
Which you need to scale up.
Right. And so where you're at this stage at ElecSome is that you've got that technology sorted, but you're just trying to scale it to a point where it can meet some of the need that we have sort of building up.
That's right, Sophie. So it's a homegrown technology, all by university and our own team. Some of our machines are also home built very much in Victoria, and wherever locally we can get it done. Yeah. So we have got the patent as well. So we are one of the few company who hold the IP, patent, technology, and now scaling up for those apart. So we can definitely keep Australia at the front
Yeah.
in terms of solar panel recycling with given the support.
And so there's been a lot of talk, you know, and particularly from the industry and from the Smart Energy Council about, you know, companies that are trying to scale up and deal with solar panel recycling. We've got at the moment as much as 4 million panels coming off
Well,
rooftops, and you know it's expected to really scale up enormously from there, including because of the battery rebate. People upsizing or putting in a whole new systems and with their new battery. And so obviously we sort of seem to be taking baby steps in the industry, and we need to be taking giant steps. And I realize this is for companies like yours, you've got to be very careful, and you've got to, as you say, make it a business case that works, and you know, scale up quite carefully and slowly. What can the government or regulators, or you know, what does the industry need to start sort of getting into lockstep with the demand?
that's another great piece of discussion and question, I'll say. See, first we have to understand that barrier which is holding back the industry. Uh, so national mandate,
Mm.
that's one big thing. Is that landfill in some states are still cheaper. People are trying to find to get away with the recycling.
Yep.
Although most of the solar farm developers, I'll say that 99% of them is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
They are very much educated, but still a lot of rooftop panels, which is
Yeah.
20, 30 panels, they are they are confused in the confused state because what to do with them.
Because in Victoria, you're not allowed to put them in landfill. That
Victoria,
only state.
and 100%. That's what Victoria, South Australia. No, there is a. If I'm not wrong, South Australia and ACT also you can verify.
Oh,
Probably
okay.
they are also not allowed solar panel. They categorize as e-waste, so it's not allowed to go in the landfill. But larger state, your 65% of solar panel is in New South Wales and Queensland.
Mm.
And if you see the 2050 map, the same 65% pushed to Northern Territory and Western Australia.
Right.
So the large solar farm.
Yeah.
So mainly we need a clear national mandate.
Mm.
Glass is banned for export, and solar panel is 75% glass.
Yep.
So it should be clearly
Oh, okay.
banned from the export. That will avoid one problem. Then second is that ban from the landfill at least. So
Yep.
those once those two things happen, then at least the whole Australia would be very clear that the panel we have to find a recycler nearby and
Yep.
we have to give it to them. Um, then manufacturers has a key role. I'll say that for the especially rooftop market,
Yeah.
manufacturers and uh, large stockist distributors, they have a key role because they can help educating. We are educating the solar farm because that's easy to do. You have to educate 20 companies, but when it comes to installer, there is a huge amount of installer. 4
Yeah.
million panel on the rooftop, including commercial. 5 million rooftops have the solar panel, and it's increasing because of battery.
Yep.
So that's main barrier holding back the industry. Now, the Smart Energy Council has been warning too about that recyclers are struggling, and they are right that you can't build a sustainable industry when waste can be dumped cheaply and legally.
Mm.
So so that's where I guess those are the challenges. Upfront high capital cost, which is and the panel volume because of the logistical issue. That is a major one of the logistical issue is a major
Yeah.
too, because sending panel from one place to other place, it's very difficult,
Yeah.
especially and costly.
Yeah, and I think I mean that's again what Darren from the Smart Energy Council has said to me as well, that the logistics part is really one of the biggest problems, and as you say, the education of the industry and of consumers of what happens when panels come off your roof, and where to take them. I mean, apparently there's a huge amount that are still stacked in people's backyards just because they don't know what to do with them, and you know they don't want to spend a fortune
True.
trying to recycle them. Yeah. So and then again, the logistics side, it's quite important that they're transported correctly, because if you damage them and everything, chuck them in the back of a skip or something, then
Yeah.
that's not great for the resource recovery.
That's right. That's 100% right. It has to be little bit damage. It's waste end of the day. So little
Yeah.
bit of damage we can manage, but not as a very bad state where it would be hard to cleanly recover the resources from the solar panel.
Yeah.
So
And so what is it about a mandatory scheme that seems to be sort of so hard for governments to get on board with? Because they've been talking about it for a while. It came up at the last energy ministers meeting, and the federal government and the states are working together. But we still really haven't heard anything. I think the big hope was that we have something in place this year. We're running out of time. Is it because there's going to be a levy involved and that's unpalatable to the industry? What's the big problem there?
uh, see the policy. We have been working with the government and we have been hearing almost east towards it for the solar panel since more than 2 years.
Mm.
We are hoping for a positive news sometime very soon and sometime quickly,
Yeah.
but you never know till the policy is announced. So that in nutshell, I'm not the stewardship expert, but
No.
in a summary, if I understand in a layman's language, is that there will be some levy uh, added when you buy a solar panel.
Mm.
So for example, you add in the manufacturing cost or supply cost.
Yep.
So that cost comes to the recycling, because that will solve a very big problem.
Mm.
If the solar panel recovery, there is a two things here. If we are not able to recover the projected value from the solar panel, where the silver and silicon play a key role,
Yeah.
then the gate fee will go higher,
Mm.
because in Australia, then otherwise, um, the industry can't survive. When the gate fee go higher, the normal people think of that they will not be very interested with such a increased cost and what is going on with the whole community and industry. You won't be interested in paying $500 to dispose your solar panel, although you know that this is a very
Yeah.
environmental friendliness cannot come at a cost of food versus
Yeah.
disposal.
Yeah.
So that's where I guess
Mm.
the policy is important, and to avoid people dumping solar panel here and there,
Yeah.
and it become a council problem.
Mm.
The council has to clean up the solar panel from the park and from wherever basically people can find to dump.
Yeah.
So it's important to increase to add the price in a start. So that's where the scheme we believe is that add the recycling cost in it starts itself, because there is other problem that if the company is not there, solar panel is for 20 years.
Mm.
If when it come, even if with the battery and all, we are seeing that it is coming early to the market. So 12-year warranty, and for example, lot of solar panels we are receiving nowadays is when you go for the battery STC, for example, battery upgrade, your 10-year-old solar panel is not compatible, the inverter is not compatible, inverter is not working.
Yep.
So those are the reasons still the solar panel can be coming to the recyclers. So in those type of cases, especially if the original installer, for example, who collected
Yep.
or something, even if you pay to the installer for the recycling, if that is not there in the market, if they have changed the company and they have gone into administration, then probably they still become the community and government problem.
Yeah.
So that's where I guess the policy is very important
Yeah.
when you are planning to be 50% solar in this country.
Yeah. I mean, I think like so many things in the clean energy industry, it's really a race of sort of logistics, regulation, and technology, isn't it? These are all things that need to come together to make this happen, and it's enormously important. And these resources, as well as it being a viable industry, are resources that are going to become very hard to come by, aren't they? Like silver and silicon, both really important.
True, 100%. That's where these all the next 1-2 year would be very deciding that whether the industry is going to be onshore or offshore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it would be so great if we could keep this onshore. There's a lot of talk about future made in Australia, and it seems to me this is one of those areas that we really could lead in. That and make a stake a claim.
100%, because this is a perfect industry and perfect example for creating the local job, boosting the regional economies. We are getting so much of regional um, for example, a lot of regional migration is happening.
Mm.
You need to build the industry in the
Yeah,
region.
absolutely.
This industry is perfect. It can be away from the cities, and it can create a lot of job, and really boost the Australian economy, along with keeping into Australia in forefront for the solar panel resource recovery.
Yep. And you run a larger company, OJAS Group, that is also involved in recycling and repurpose upcycling, and we had news just in the last couple of weeks of another company, Surcell, who has been big in electronic waste recycling management, going into voluntary administration, and I just wonder, I mean, we've probably covered this quite a lot, but, what is it about the recycling industry in general, not just with solar, and it will be with batteries as well, that is so difficult to make it work? Is it something that Australia is doing wrong, or is this happening is this a worldwide problem?
See, the times are I would not know about every company, but I'll say the time is tough across the world. There is a bit of a slowdown we are seeing,
Yep.
and developed economy like Australia always have their own labor costs, the policies, the minimum, which is very important, which
Mm.
we personally like it very much. Um, all the regulations and requirement to run a industry which is needed in the country. That's why we are very much supporting and are very firm believer of local manufacturing
Yep.
and the local industry. But talking about circle, probably the upfront, again, same thing, upfront, uh, the cost, capital cost, the high labor cost, and plus the not enough waste hitting the stream, what is needed to make it
Right.
really profitable. So the bigger message is the waste and recycling sector in Australia is tough because policy hasn't caught up with the transition we are in.
Right.
We are trying to go to 50% renewals by even 2035, I guess,
Mm.
which is literally just giving us 10 years. And in all these new policies of the solar battery manufacturing, we need to it's very important that we need to focus now on the resource recovery industry too.
Yep.
Because the way we are focusing on the manufacturing industry, there is a lot of news you would have heard about the battery manufacturing support,
Yep.
the solar manufacturing support. Same thing we need for the resource recovery industry support as well,
Mm.
to ensure that the because we still have for example, if the from the solar panel, we are every month what we are receiving, for example, even 5,000 panel we receive and create 100,000 100,000 in revenue, still the same amount of labor and the cost is there which is needed in manufacturing. So
Yep.
manufacturing percentage of the logistic is a maybe 2 to 5%, but in a waste the percentage of logistic is 50% or 60%. So those are the things we have to focus on.
Mm. And yeah, I think it's there's such potential for Australia to shine in this area, and I think the more we can pressure the policymakers to get on board, the better.
100%, and
Yeah.
that's where you guys come in picture.
Yes.
You have to push hard.
Trying. I know that there's so many people that have done such amazing work, and have been doing behind the scenes for years now, as you said, in these discussions. And it's going to have to happen with batteries as well. And it's just such a valuable resource.
100% solar everywhere in the world. Wherever we see, the solar is considered a very valuable resource, very good item to recycle.
Mm.
It's not messy. It has got a lot of valuable stuff into it. And that's where one other piece of information, I don't know if you know that, the Japan, Korea, China, very much in the forefront of trying to bring the solar panel back to the country.
Yeah.
If they think of this as a big value, even in they are ready to pay for the transportation from here to back to their country, why we can't understand that there is a huge amount of future value into these things?
Yeah.
So it's important to keep the industry on solar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the part that you're playing in all of that, and we look forward to hearing the progress of how you're going with that technology for recovering the silver, which sounds really interesting and fantastic. And perhaps that's a subject for a future podcast, because it'd be great to get into that technology and talk about the origins of that at the universities.
Definitely. That's definitely a great topic, Sophie. And thank you very much again for inviting us. It was a great talking to you. We would love to show you silver recovery plant sometime.
Yes, and I it's actually not that far from me, so I've got no excuses. I should come out and see it. But for now, thank you so much for your time, and we'll speak again soon. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was Neeraj Das from ElecSome, and it was great to speak to him and to hear that there is some progress happening in the solar recycling space. Now, Rachel, I'll switch straight away to the news of the week, because I feel like we did a nice long preamble today. And yes, you had some interesting times. I mean, usually we don't talk about wind so much on this podcast because it's usually a very large scale thing, but this is a project that is quite small. That you tell us about what happened with this project.
Well, there is in New South Wales, just south of Lithgow, is a tiny little 2-turbine wind project in a little town called Hampton. Hampton consists of a pub, a school, and the road to Jenolan Caves. And I think there's about 100 people who live in and around there. Now, this little wind farm, there's 2 turbines, 660 kilowatts each, have been operating since 2001. And the owner has been working for a couple of years now on what it might do with these turbines at the end of their life. And so they've come to the community and put in a development application to say, we would like to upgrade these turbines with refurbished turbines from Denmark. So not new ones, refurbished ones that have already been used.
Well, there you go. Speaking of recycling, it's
recycling,
very sensible to me.
And so I was chatting with the developer yesterday, and he said, "Oh, yeah, we were looking at what they did at King Island, and we just want to. What we want to do, what they could do, is replace them with like for like." They said, "Well, there's a little bit of extra capacity in the network, so why don't we just make them a bit bigger?" Now, of course, this has caused major ructions in the community. I'm told by a couple of people about half of the community didn't want them there in the first place. The other half is like either for them or doesn't really care.
Okay. And when we say community, do we mean, so is this a big farm? Is it a big property? How close are the neighbours?
The neighbours are pretty close. So they're not modern setbacks by any stretch of the imagination. The nearest intersection is 300 metres away, or will be 300 metres away once they've pushed the bigger turbines back. If they decide to go with those, and the nearest house, according to the development application, is 330 metres away. So, you would not put a turbine that close to a house or an intersection.
No.
These days.
Under current rules.
Yeah. And the turbines are going to be bigger. So, tip height's going from 70 metres, I think it was, to 120 metres. So that's quite a bit bigger.
Not insignificant.
Yeah. And people are understandably quite upset. What caught my eye were the leaflets going around on Facebook, which use some pretty blatantly wrong information. Like they have, a graphic of the first one compared to a graphic of the second of the proposed one, which are clearly not in proportion. Compared two different heights, and make pretty wild claims like, your property is going to be devalued by 30%. That's
Right. Yeah.
like doesn't like there's no study. Like this is property devaluation and valuations next to wind and solar projects, particularly wind projects, though, have been studied for about 10 years now, and every study is showing that property values, once the work is done, begin to rise. So the numbers are off, the claims are off, and that doesn't sit right with me. It's
No.
if you
It comes back to this misinformation, disinformation
exactly
that was going on all last week, and that Anne Delaney wrote about really well on Renew Economy. There's plenty of, as you have said, very understandable and reasonable claims people have to not want these kind of projects, that they can be environmentally inappropriate, they can be in the wrong spot, they can be, but I think the problem is that when people start resorting to this just blatant lies,
when people have a worry and then that worry is presented as a fact to other people who also have that worry, and then they have that fear confirmed as fact, that's that looks like what is happening here, and it's going to cause a lot of people a lot of pain. And I actually saw this with a story that I wrote yesterday about a battery up in Rockhampton. This is Ace Energy, and they won a court case, an appeal, because the Rockhampton Regional Council said, we're not going to, we reject the development application. And so they took them to court, and then they won it. And joining the case against the appeal were 4 locals, originally a few more, but in the end 4. And they said, there's been such mental anguish about fighting this thing. And I just think, does not criticizing or judging what they've been through, but do people in other places need to go through the same mental anguish because the information they're getting is so wrong and designed to make them upset?
Yeah, no, we absolutely have to do better. And hopefully some things come out of these hearings that we can learn from, and and it comes down to industry, to the renewable energy industry, to policymakers, to local government. I think there's a particular role there to have your facts straight and look after your ratepayers. Yeah, I agree. It really needs to be fixed, and we've seen that too with this whole toxic solar argument, which is a story for another day. But yes, it's very disappointing, and it's, as you say, pretty harmful to communities. Really can tear them apart unnecessarily. Also, this week we had a bit of a update on the Western Australia uptake of the home battery rebates. So they have that stacked rebate, which you can either have the federal one or you can have federal and state. And there was a bit of a hoo-ha, I think, which originated with the state opposition, saying that the numbers are terrible. It's been a big failure. Only 4,500 batteries installed under the state rebate, and saying it's been a bit of a disaster. But I think that's a little bit of a beat up because apparently there are more than 18,000 applications to the rebate, according to the state energy minister, Amber Jade Sanderson, and I think it's a similar situation as is happening federally, where basically we had these huge amounts being of uptake, 1,000 a day, 1,000 or 1,500 a day was the latest I heard at All Energy. But that obviously is not sustainable, and so we've sort of hit a bit of a plateau. I think in October things started to calm down a bit, and it's not necessarily because the demand is ebbing. It's more just because it's industry just can't keep up with that pace, which is probably fair.
There are only so many installees who can do so many jobs
There are.
at one time.
There are, and apparently there's been a huge effort to try and bring more installers in to bring them up to speed. There's as we have discussed before, Rachel, a mountain of terrifying regulations and fine print and ways that you have to install them in different states and everywhere. So it's no easy thing. So I imagine it's a bit the same in WA, where, yes, they're just trying to keep up with demand at the moment, and there may be a bit of a lag in how that's all sort of tracking as far as actual installations go. But by and large, it seems like it has been quite popular, and I guess it's one to watch because it has been a bit of an interesting test case, WA. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I don't think we can call it a dud just yet.
No, and installers are having to deal with even within states, some very complicated rules. I have a friend who is looking at upgrading their solar and getting a battery, and they've had a couple of people through so far. One said, "Yep, we can put it next to the bathroom. That's fine." Mm-hmm. Another said, "Absolutely not. That is absolutely not to code." Another one said, "You can't put it over there. You will need some fire, backing." And so now this friend is like,
yeah, it doesn't instill confidence, does it?
All of these are the installers. Should they all be saying the same thing? No, like there's a bit of confusion.
They should be. And look, the advice there is to go to the Clean Energy Council page, check it out. There are some very clear guidelines, and the installers should absolutely be across that. So it's a little bit of a concern. But yes, there's a lot to keep up with, and on the one hand, we're like, oh, we should be doing this, and it's outrageous. But on the other hand, we don't want a situation where things are being installed incorrectly and unsafely, and that's not, and regulators also have to keep up. So we should be happy that this is, being done carefully and not rushed out, because that's not going to be good for anyone. And the next thing I wanted to touch on, the other little bit of news, as in keeping with our misinformation theme of today, is in Victoria, the pricing regulator, the Essential Services Commission, has come out and said it's going to tighten up the rules around how electricity retailers have to word their offers on their plans, because you may remember that earlier this year, the Australian Energy Regulator had a few things to say after a super complaint was made by Choice about just the way the obfuscation, I think is the best word you can use, the way it is not made easy for consumers to get onto the best possible electricity deal for them. And so I think, there's been this effort among the regulators and watchdogs to say, well, this needs to be made much more easy, and can we change this, that, and the other? And one of the big things that they noticed was that this since 2023, retailers have been required to tell customers if there is a better offer. It's called the better offer rule, that they have in their own company that they could be on. And I think I've mentioned this before, but my mum had this issue where she was with a certain retailer, we won't name, and she came to me with a bill and said, "Look, it says here that I could be on this offer and it would be saving me $1,000 a year." And I was like, "What?" And the problem is that what they were finding is that it's often these offers had the same name as the offer that the people were already on, which was also the case with my mum. And it's very confusing. So the issue that the Essential Services Commission has confronted is this same name, different price problem. And they are basically saying that now retailers in Victoria have to be much clearer about changes to an offer and give it a different name rather than, so if you have, say, an offer called Solar Smasher or something, but you went on it 2 years ago and over those 2 years it's changed and it's much better, but you're not on that better one. You have to know that, and it probably has to have a different name if it's becoming such a different offer that there's $1,000 difference in it. And one thing that struck me in this decision by the ESC was just some of the wording, which I will read from my notes because it's quite something. It says that the new rules will require retailers to have plans that are effective in helping customers switch to a cheaper plan. So I don't know why we have to make a rule that should be effective. So I don't know. It's like they're saying, please stop deliberately confusing customers. And look, they go to pains to say that they don't really think that they're doing it deliberately, but it is very confusing. Like often the message for the better offer is right down the bottom and it's in tiny fine print. And if you look at it and it has the same name as the plan that you're on, you're going to think, oh, well, I'm already on that. So I guess it's a good rule, but it's a bit infuriating that they have to be told to have effective measures to help consumers
Yeah,
as opposed
yeah,
to this
that's
one.
it's I don't know about anyone else, but I find it endlessly frustrating having to call the retailer every single year and say, put me back down to the rate I was paying last week.
Yeah.
Like there was no need to put me back to put me up. Just put it back.
Yeah.
Same. This is the same one.
And I mean, most people wouldn't probably even notice that that's happened. Like, I think for us, we're a bit more aware, but, and even for my mum's case, I have whatever knowledge I have, which it, doesn't often help. And she's pretty sharp, but both of us had to kind of sit there and go through the whole process with the call center and everything. And it wasn't easy. And actually, I still have to check in and make sure it worked. But yeah, it's astounding that they would sort of just put that there and kind of try and hide it almost. It's really not very cool. And yeah, so I think that's progress, but at a time when we need our retailers to be fostering trust, and trust is going to be crucial to the sort of transition, the consumer energy revolution that's happening. It's not great. So yes, it's good to see that people are onto it, and people like Choice and the ACCC are keeping an eye. So that is at least good to know, and the regulators are acting. And I think that is all we have this week, Rachel, unless you have something else you wanted to add.
I might just throw in a nice little, it's not really consumer, it's not really solar in any way. It is Queensland. This week I reported on Queensland Planning Minister Jared Blay. A word that, a name that as a writer, I don't need to say out loud very often. So we did need to look up before this how to pronounce it. We believe it's Blay. Who said at the end of last week about the Moonlight Range Wind project, which his office approved and then unapproved 6 months later, that he would approve it. Any approval for that project would happen over his dead body, which does raise some interesting questions, which his office did not manage to return a comment on from us about whether even if this project does meet all of his new rules, the ones that came in after they had approved it,
Yeah.
whether he would then still not approve it,
Mm.
even if it met all of the new requirements and was recommended by his client.
Over my dead body would suggest that. I mean, he's
Would suggest
literally
that.
saying he wants to die on a hill over this project, which makes it very hard to believe that we're not in ideological territory here. I mean, this is the
It
project.
also makes it very hard to understand how anyone can trust the rules in Queensland.
I mean, it just, yeah, he said this at a regional press conference. You know, it was probably in response to a Dorothy Dixer, but then won't respond to journalists because, I asked last week, you asked again this week. And to recap, this was a project that was actually approved by the Christopher government. It was the first project to be approved by them.
When Jared Blay, when he was the planning minister, he was appointed planning minister in November last year. His office approved it in December.
Yes, and then they went ahead and made some rule changes, fine, implemented them retrospectively, and under that scenario then rejected this project that they had approved. And we're talking about projects that are hundreds of millions of dollars, sometimes billions. It's not mucking around. And yeah, so I think goes to this thing that if there are environmental problems with the project, fine. If there are if it's in the wrong place, fine. But his argument, I think, is that this developer ran roughshod over the community or something. And I think they are proposing to go back and do all of the social stuff again. They're also wanting to go through the federal EPBC system to make sure that they tick all the environmental boxes. But he will not answer your question of whether that would then make the project okay. Just over my dead body.
And would make the same decision again. So
yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It's a very confusing message, and I would say a bit worrying for poor old Queensland. But yes, we will see. We will see how that unfolds. All right. Well, it's been great chatting to you again this week, Rachel, and great to have you guys listening again to Solar Insiders. And thank you. And thanks to our sponsor, Pylon. We will be back in a couple of weeks with the next episode. So until then, bye for now.